Hi all, welcome to our channel. I hope you are doing well. Today we are going to discuss about the different types of design patterns that we have in Swift. So as a iOS developer during my initial days, I was struggling to know the difference between what is MVVM, what is MVC, what are the key differences, when to use when. So in order to just clarify like what are the exact differences, let's go ahead and see each and every design pattern, and we will see what are the drawbacks of each design pattern that we have to go and implement the another one. So in this scenario we will get to know the drawbacks of and the advantages of each pattern, as well as in the end we will discuss about the code also, like how we have to go with the code. So let's start with the first and foremost, that is the MVC. Okay, so let me just drag up to the screen, and here we start. So we have the MVC pattern. First we will see like what made it, like we have to go ahead with the MVC pattern, what was the problem that MVC was having, and then we will follow on. So in MVC pattern, so we have to make sure like here M stands for the model, view stands for the V, and then we have the controller. Okay, so these are the things we have. So now let's have a diagram and see like what are the things and how things are going on. So this is my model. Okay, so here is my model and here is my controller. Okay, so here is my controller and here is my view. Okay, simple. So first we need to understand like what things are doing this. So whatever data values we have, like we can say our database and all the things we have to store, we have in the model. View is basically whatever UI things we are making, like we have our xib files, or we have our storyboard, or we are having our own controller. So whatever view the we are making, like a button, anything that comes inside the view. Okay, so this is a view, and here is the controller. Controller is basically what it is, basically doing our logical handling. It is having our business models. Okay, like business models or the business logics we have in our app, whatever logic we have to implement. Like let's say you cannot allow user to enter more than 5 digits for a specific zip code, or you cannot allow the user to enter a password that is less than 5 letters. Okay, so these are the business logic that our application might have. So our application might have like the user will not enter the save button, like user will not be getting the save button enabled if the user have not filled all the text fields. So this is all the logics that our app will have. So what happens is like when a user interacts with the view, okay, user perform any UI interaction, then the view tells the controller, hey, there is a UI activity that has been performed. Okay, so now here my controller will say, okay, let me check. So it checks like what are the UI activities and based on what I have to perform. So user checks, okay, if there's a button click or whatever it is there in the controller, based on that UI activity, the controller will tell the view, hey, just do this thing and then update yourself. The controller will tell the view like you have to change your color of your background from black to white since the user has performed this activity. So what this controller is doing, it is doing business logic plus UI updates. It is handling basically your UI activities as well. So like whatever UI re-rendering has to be done or UI rendering has to be done, it control the UI activities of the view as well. So here it tells like what it has to do. It like tells the user like what UI has to be updated or what action has to be performed. Okay, so now let's say if there is a thing that we have to make changes into the database or into the model, then controller tells the model, hey, change yourself like this and this and this. Okay, so this happens. So now what happens, model now will not talk to the controller, it will notify, see the catch here, it will notify the view, hey, I have updated myself. What it will do, it will send the updates, it will notify the updates. Okay, this is the main thing you have to follow. It notify the updates to the model, or the model to the view model, like I have changed myself, so please go and see like what are the changes and update yourself. So now what will happen, my view will go and my view will see what are the changes in the model, and it will update itself based upon the UI values. So the model values will be updated from the view, so it will get the updated model or the updated key values. So this is the main thing. So now you see the view is also talking to the model, the controller is also talking to the model. Okay, so here we do not know, like there is no separation, like there is no clarity, like we never know like when the view will talk to the controller and when the view might talk to the model. So this is not a separation of the layers. So here the controller is also being occupied with many things. It is having one layer is responsible for the business logic as well as for the UI updates. So we are not having a proper solid principles that are being followed. Okay, there is a violation. So in the small apps, we can see like in the small apps there are very small apps, like we have do not have any much logic, or there are too many screens, or we do not have to perform any UI testings and all. So there we can use this MVC pattern. Okay, so this is our MVC pattern. So let me just show you the video, like the code, like how the MVC pattern looks like. So here is my MVC pattern. So what I have done, see here, this is how we make the folders. So here is my MVC pattern, here is my controller, that is my storyboard as I told you, and here is my model, basic model, and here is my main controller. So you see my main controller is here. Okay, so this is my controller. Okay, so now you see here when we have the view, my view is directly talking. Okay, you see my label text is directly updating and talking to the model. Okay, so this is wrong, like this is correct, but if we are talking on a larger scale applications, this might be affecting. So you can see this is my controller, it is talking, it is telling the view model like to make the updates itself. As you can see here, the controller is making on the basis of the whatever application has the action. So my application is saying like if the user clicks on this enters any name in the text field, it will update the label. So here the updations of the model are being done, and once the updation of the models are done, then you can see the controller is telling the view to update itself, and here our model has notified like I have updated itself. So here the view is directly taking the values from the model. This is like what I told you, how MVC is working. So as you can see, like if I enter the name, so this is my basic app that I have made. So if I enter my name, let's say Prachi, and here I press the save button, so we will have a delay of 3 seconds just in order to show like it is an API call, and you see like here is the name. This is our API, the small app that is working. This is how MVC is being basically made. Okay, so now moving on, as we see like there are some disadvantages as we see in the MVC, like we do not have the segregation of the layers. Our controller is being overloaded, it has been overloaded with many responsibilities. Okay, and let's say if we have to make any change for a particular view, like let's say we have to make change any for the business logic for any of the view, so other views will be affected. Like if we have one controller and two views attached to it, so here the segregation is not possible. Okay, so now in order to deal with this, what we have is another, first we have to deal with the first problem, like model is talking to the view. So this is problem number 1, and then is the business segregation problem number 2. Okay, so problem number 1 is being solved in MVP pattern. Okay, so let me just scroll a bit. Okay, let's go ahead and I will show you this MVP pattern. So let's talk about MVP pattern. So what my MVP pattern is doing, let's see. First of all, MVP. So let's see. Here M stands for the model again, view stands for V, and P is the presenter. Okay, so model and view will be the same here also. So let me draw this. Okay, here is my model and here is my presenter. Okay, here it will be my view, my bad, and here will be my presenter. So let's understand like how this is working. So what happens is here, whenever view has any UI activity that is being performed, it tells to the presenter, hey presenter, I have some user activity that is being performed. So I will say here UI activity in short. So here any UI activity that has been performed, presenter will also look over its business logic that are being written in itself. It will check for the business logics of the app. As I told you, it will check what are the validations or when we have to perform the UI updates and all. So presenter will check like if it has to deal it with any models, like with any database, it will go to the model and tell, hey, update yourself. Okay, it will ask the user to or the model to update itself. Here now whatever we saw like in the MVC pattern, we do not, the model talks directly to the view. Here the model will talk back to the presenter only. It will not talk to the view. So here model will update itself and will notify the presenter like I have updated myself. Good. So now the presenter now will tell based upon the values, whatever the model value or whatever the business logic it had, like how the UI will have to behave. Like UI will render or whatever actions that you have to perform. It will tell to the view. So here the presenter, one problem of model directly talking to the view is being now solved. But here we have again the problem, like here the presenter also controls the UI updates or the UI handling. UI handling is still being performed by the presenter only, and here again our presenter is been overloaded with work. There is no separation of the layers yet. So we do not have a separation here. This is again a problem for us, but for the small scale apps, we can go ahead with this. For the small scale applications, MVP is a good choice. But now you think like how the presenter and view will be talking. So here in the view, we use the delegation patterns. Okay, here we are using the delegation or the delegate approach. What happens here in the view, we make the weak reference of the view. Okay, we make the weak reference of the presenter in the view. So what happens when we make the weak reference of the presenter? So whenever the presenter has to ask the UI to update itself, it will send its delegate functions in the view, and we will use them when we have to update the UI. So this is the achievement we have here. So we will be using the weak reference so that there is no during the garbage collection period, so we do not have any memory cycles or the retain cycles. So this helps for this. So let me just show you a quick example of the code. I won't be taking too long. So where we have our presenter code MVC, this is MV, just a second, this is MVC. We have already seen MVC. Let's stop this and let me go back to the code. Here it is, MVP. So as you can see in the MVV pattern, here it is, and you can see this is how the files have been made. Again, the model in the model, and here is the main, our controller, whatever we have, and here is the presenter. So here in the presenter you can see I have made a protocol. In the protocol I am using like UI controller and the user delegate. So we are having a delegation pattern as I told you. So what we will do in this, we, as you can see in this, my presenter is talking to the model, and any changes in the model are being done by the presenter layer only, and the view layer is not talking to it. So as I have made this presenter, as you can see, this is my user delegate that I told you. Like when I have to tell my view, like I have to update myself, I will be using this update model function that will tell my view, hey, now you can update yourself. So as you can see, whatever like this delegation I have done, and then I have the username. So whenever the user will enter the name, I will update it in the model, and then I will tell my view to update itself with the latest name. So you see, like the view is not talking to the model. The presenter is only giving the values to the view of the model. So here in the view, you can see like as the save button is pressed, the view will tell the presenter get the username. Okay, now presenter will get the username, and whatever username the presenter will get. So you can see in the delegate method that we have written here, like whatever the text we have, we are just whatever we will be returning from the delegate method. This is the delegation pattern that we follow. It returns the name. So whatever name you can see, we are returning the name here. So whatever name we are getting over here, we are just simply printing that name. So this is how the delegates work. So if you do not have a clear idea like how delegates are working, you might be thinking, hey, here the name has been in the parameter, but how you are getting. So you can just look over like on few of the articles like how delegates work. So you will get a gist of it. So now as you can see in this video, now we have talked about MVP, MVC. So MVP solves one problem, that is like the model is not directly talking to the view. But still one problem that is yet to be handled is this overloading of the presenter. Again, our one layer is been overloaded with two work. What are the two works? That business logic and the UI update are being performed in one layer only. So now in order to get these things done, what we have to go? We have to go ahead with another view, another model that is known as MVVM. Okay, so we have the another MVVM. So this solves our problem. of presenter, or the disadvantages of the presenter are being solved in this MVVM pattern. And we are almost very familiar with this MVVM. So what we are doing, this is our MVVM pattern, and in this MVVM pattern we have our model, we have our view model, and here is our view. Simple. So whatever the user activities, like let's say if there is an update in the view, so whatever we have, like if there is a UI update or UI activity that has been performed, view model will only have the business logic in it. Okay, it will only have the business logic in it, and it will talk to the model. The model, whatever updates it have to be performed, it will update itself and it will notify the view model only. Okay, and when the view model gets the values or whatever the business logic, it returns the values to the view, and view only, it just returns the updated logics, like what you have to do. Okay, so it notifies the view, like here these are the business actions and these are the results. It notifies the results to the view, and view has in its own class has the basic like logics of the views, like how I have to re-render itself, what are the basic rendering properties, and how we have to behave. So here the view is only controlling itself, like how it has to do. So because basically our MVVM is based upon the observable patterns, like we have the observable patterns, like when the any changes are view model 2 are being made, they are being directly notified to the view. That's the best advantage of the MVVM that we follow. So whatever any changes are being done, any values to the view model are being changed, they are directly notified to the view, and view updates itself accordingly. So that's the best part. Okay, so here the view updates itself accordingly, because here the view logics or the view parts are being written inside the view only and not in the view model. So here we have the clarity and the separation of the layers, so no layer is being overburdened with the work. Simple. So now let's see the MVVM pattern. It's very simple. Here in the MVVM pattern, same logic like updation of the data, only I'm performing nothing different. So here in the MVVM, you can see model, view, model and view. So these are the layers. Here view model is only talking to the model and it is updating the value. Okay, as you can see, whatever values are being updated, it is sending the callback. So once the values are being done properly, so here in the view, they will be updated. So you can see here, we have the view model, that is the view is talking to the model, hey update the values. So once the values are been done in the view model, the view model tells back, hey these are my values, if there is no error then kindly just update yourself. So the view will update itself. So now the view re-rendering is being done in the view itself. So the view model is not handling like how the view will behave, it will just tell the values like what you have to do, and how the view will behave we have written in the view itself. As you can see in the view itself, we have told like, hey if you get the values from the view model, just update yourself. Okay, so here the view model is not responsible for like updations, like what you have to do, it is just sending the callback values. But in the previous MVVM, you have to tell like, hey update yourself, we have the data everywhere, we have to tell the view like what you have to do. So that's the best part of the MVVM. Now these are the basic differences that I have told you, like how MVVM, MVP and MVC are different from each other. And basically why we use MVVM, because first we have the separation of the layers. So we have like separation that is being performed. After separation, we basically, the view model is based upon observation pattern. So we basically, that's the best part, like when you have to use the observation pattern, like it is basically any changes in the view model, the view will update itself. So we are using like observable, like in Swift UI we are using observable objects and all, that helps us. We are having publishers, so view model basically publishes itself, like it view has a description of the view model and it publishes itself, like hey I have changed myself, you just go ahead and just re-render yourself. Simple. So this is basic differences of MVP, MVVM and MVC. Okay, so now the best, another like we have the short clip in this video, like here I will be just telling you about another pattern that we have is is Viper. Viper is also used in this industry, like in app development. Okay, so for very large scale apps, and where we are following the principle like one layer is having, like we can say one feature, like to be honest that would be much more better word if I would use, like we can have one feature will have one module. So in this scenario, we will be using one feature, one module principle. Okay, we use this ideology in the Viper. So what we are doing here, just have a look. It will be very easy to understand. Okay, so just I will not be going in the code, for it will make the video very lengthy. We will understand Viper with code in another video. So here we have the presenter, and then I will have my interactor, and here I will have my entity, and here I will have my router. Okay, so as you can see, like with the words, V stand for view, I stand for interactor, and P stands for presenter, E stands for entity, R stands for router. So what happens, router take cares of all the navigations. Okay, where you have to go to the next page, when you have to go to the next page, where you have to land, all the navigations, if I speak about, all the navigations are being handled in the router. Okay, entity is basically our model, it store all our database. Okay, and then the interactor is basically like, if it stores our business logic, whatever business logics we have to store in the interactor, business logics or any API calls, like you have your repositories and all. So API calls are all being managed in the interactor. View is nothing, your UI, that could be your storyboard, or it could be your anything like xiv file, anything. Okay, here is your view, and then is your presenter. So presenter is just basically a layer that will get the user response from the view, and it will see like it, and it works accordingly and will check like to which layer I have to send my things. Okay, so this is how presenter is working. So like here is a presenter, like basically it will check like to which router it has to tell, like it will send the user response to the layer accordingly. Okay, so what will happen, like let's say there is a user activity, the user has pressed some button, the presenter will check like, okay, button press, so is that button press a navigation? So if it is not a navigation, it will send it to the interactor will see what are the business logics, or if I have to make any API calls, and if any API calls or business logic are making changes in the model, then it will update the model or entity accordingly, and this entity or the model will be updated, and once it will be updated, it will set the values back to the interactor will then see like it will send the values back to the presenter, and then if the interactor says, hey, you have to perform some route like navigations and all, then presenter will say, hey, router, go and change yourself, you have to perform some navigations. If not so, then it is fine, and then the presenter will send it back to the view. If the UI has to be re-rendered, then the view will be re-rendered accordingly. So let's say when you are on the first screen of the app, so you will enter the first screen of the app through the router. The router will take you to the presenter, and then the presenter will take you to the view. So this is how the things are working and things are being linked into. Okay, so this is how our Viper is initially working. So if let's say this is your first screen, you come into the router, then your router will take to the presenter will first see, okay, this is the first screen and I have to present a view, it will present the view, draw a view for your, and when the user will perform any UI activity, let's say here is any UI activity that is being performed, presenter will check, if there is, it will send it to the user. So it will send the values to the basic to the interactor, and if there is any changes, it will update the model, if any update the entity, and then the entity will notify the new values, whatever the new values are, notify new values I will write here, and whatever new values that have been notified, it will tell like what action to perform, it will see actions to perform, and then it will ask like, okay, and then here it will return like what to do. Here it will ask, it will do what to do, and here whatever we have to do, we will get the values, and then the UI updates are being performed. Okay, so if we have to perform a navigation, it will ask the user to navigate, and then the router will present a new view. So a new view. So it will ask to navigate. Simple. So you just have to learn these things in the form of a story, and you will be getting the entire gist of the things, how they are working. So as I told you, here there is a separation of the layer in such a depth, like everything is being performed in every module. So you cannot think of a more less of a feature. So you, that's why I told you there is a one ideology that we follow here, that is one feature, one module. So that's, you can see model in model, Business logic API calls in interactive. Presenter will see like where I have to send my values. Router will take care of the navigations that are being performed. Okay, so here and here it is basically presenter is my UI controller. You can say view controller, my bad. So here it is basically an equivalence to a view controller. And here is your basic view, that is your story or the XIV file. So this is how your things are being performed. So if you have a very large scale app where you want like every feature should have its own module, you want extreme segregation of the layers, then go ahead with the Viper. So all these codes I have shared in the GitHub repository. You can go in the comment section and check the GitHub repository for the code. And if you like this video, please share the video and do let me know in the comment section what are your feedbacks over this video, and do share if you have any thoughts. Thank you for watching.